This hour, I'm very excited, super excited, because of who we have on as a guest tonight. I'll tell you what, if I were a science geek, and I am, and when I grow up, which I don't know if I ever will, I'd like to grow up and be Jake Ward. The guy is the coolest guy on the planet. I mean, he's the coolest science guy you'll ever see. I mean, you got Bill Nye, all these other guys, you know, just the geeky guys, look like TV weathermen, everyone. Oh, this guy's cool. I mean, come on. I was watching a lot of his material over the weekend because I knew I was going to be interviewing him. Top Secret is the show that's going to be premiering tomorrow at 8 p.m. Pacific time, Eastern time on the National Geographic Channel. And this is part of Secret Access Week on National Geographic. And they want to get inside the world of black budget projects. Now, it was National Geographic, if you recall, that got in, and we had a number of guys come forward and talk about Area 51. We had guys on our show talking about Area 51 and what really goes on there. In fact, when people are asking the alien questions of Area 51, you know, we kind of, you know, went, okay, you know, because it was getting a little bit into the secret stuff. They gave us some hints, nothing really concrete, but some hints. But now we move from Area 51 to other facilities that you start to see where these so-called UFOs and UAVs are being tested. Palmdale, California, there's this corridor where they actually test these things. And now here he is going to Plant 42. And so we welcome Jake Ward to Ground Zero. Hey, Jake, how's it going?
Good, Clyde. Man, I deeply, deeply appreciate the intro. What nice words you've said.
Well, you're amazing, man. I tell you, I sit there and I say to myself, gosh, you know, you just kind of like with a swagger kind of walk into Plant 42, you know.
Hi, good morning. Hi, Tanya. I'm Jake. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I was watching the preview.
I know it looks relaxed, right? I have to tell you though, it is not. I am actually I you know, try to look cool and I wear a leather jacket and the whole deal, but
yeah.
Man, I'm the kind of guy who gets nervous when they tell you to turn off your cell phone on the plane. You know, I snap it closed. You know, I'm actually quite terrified of authority, and so a big chunk of that show was just me shaking in my boots because they are not messing around when they're protecting Plant 42.
Let's see if I ever get those back again. Right now they're looking at my license and registration, and then we're going to get met by our escort in a second here. They've also told us they're going to ask us to turn our cameras off many times.
And that with all those military and private companies, I'm sure they're all trying to impress each other with technologies that they're throwing out there, that they're testing. And some things we probably have no idea that they're involved with. In fact, we were talking about the drones early in the first hour, and people were talking about lasers and all kinds of other stuff. When you're there at Plant 42, what exactly would you say, how far advanced are we with the technology?
Well, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. I would say that, you know, military technology, if you think about the B-2 stealth bomber, which is one of the best-known things to have come out of Plant 42, you know, that was built by Northrop Grumman in utter secrecy for the better part of 2 decades. You know, they were developing that, you know, for a long, long time without anybody knowing anything about it. And so you have to, you know, assume, I think, that you know, the stuff that they're building there is at least a decade out. I mean, you're looking at, you know, people recruiting some of the best minds from private industry, from, you know, graduate programs, from whatever it is, and throwing, as I say, you know, an incredible amount of off-the-books money. And, you know, you've got these kids being recruited out of, you know, Cal Poly and Stanford and MIT and so forth, being thrown into this kind of environment with pretty much unlimited funding being thrown at them. And they're really coming up with some pretty extraordinary stuff. Plus, and this is, again, to that sort of point of secrecy, they are competing against each other sometimes on the same contract. So you'll have, you know, the whoever the client is, the Navy or the Air Force or whichever branch of the military has you know, opened up a contract. They'll give these individual contractors, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, whatever, the same contract, unbeknownst to one another. It's
right.
They don't even know if that's true, and then they duke it out, you know, sort of in solitude, in parallel, and then so not only do you have stuff being developed that's 10 years out, it's stuff being, you know, there's multiple versions of it that's being developed 10 years out.
That's why I always tell my audience about secrets, and I say to them, there's more to it than whether or not the government's covering something up or whether or not, there's something else going on, the Men in Black, all that stuff, is because they want to keep the secrets within the companies, and they want to keep it from the other companies, and there's this big, I guess you could say, tug of war and competition between the two until we have what we see in the skies and maybe even mistake for UFOs or what have you. So, Jake, you flew into restricted airspace. Where were you when you did that?
So we were trying to get a look at Plant 42 from the air because at the time we were being skunked basically on getting in the gates. Nobody was going to let us in.
Right.
And so we chartered a plane and basically asked the guy, will you take us overhead? And the airspace around Plant 42, which is in Palmdale, California, it's the Antelope Valley outside Los Angeles, the airspace is very, very interesting because it's this mishmash of civilian airliners that are taking off from LAX and are going to go across the country.
Right.
There's Edwards Air Force Base is right there, and then the airspace above Palmdale. And the research, there's a supersonic corridor in which they can do all kinds of crazy runs. And the question for us was, can we get a charter? There's a lot of private planes in the area to take us across the restricted airspace of Edwards Air Force Base and see what we could see.
And so. What had happened? Did you get stopped? Did you get winged down? What happened to you?
That's the edge of the restricted airspace. Yeah, this lake bed here, that is Rosamond dry lake bed, and to the east of that is the 2515 boundary. You do not invade that airspace without permission.
It's kind of like that scene in Star Wars where it's an old coach. We let it pass. Yes,
that's right.
Let it pass.
Exactly what it was. That is literally what happened. He basically just you just ask politely, essentially, and say, "Hey, I'm just a little private plane. Do you mind if I'm a little Cessna or whatever. Do you mind if I just come in, close to the ground and just scoot across?" And evidently, private planes can do this every so often because it avoids having to go the long way around this enormous restricted airspace.
Mark is going to radio the tower within Edwards and ask for permission to cross restricted airspace. We'll see what they say.
Mark 2JZ is currently over Mojave. I was wondering if we could transit 2515 from our present position.
That's approved standard limit 6,000. 18 radio contact. The contracted order at 12 months.
All right. They let us in. He's given us a golden opportunity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the air traffic controller basically told him, yes, you've got permission. You just have to stick to this very specific line. And if you stray from this vector, you're in a lot of trouble. But yes, you can go ahead and go through. And so, by God, we flew over Plant 42. But I mean, it's terrifying to take a little prop plane into that space because literally, it's like taking a bicycle onto the freeway.
Because you don't know what you're up against. Not only are you on the freeway with this small, taking a bicycle on the freeway, you're taking that bicycle on the freeway, and you may wind up hitting up with a tank. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
It's like a freeway with tanks going up and down the road, right?
That's right, or caught in the wash of a big truck going by or whatever. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And they tell you specifically, and I don't speak air traffic control, so I don't know that lingo terribly well. But from what I can understand, if we change course, they're going to begin to talk to me as a whole different category of person. That's when they actually scramble a fighter jet, bring it up here, and suddenly we are in, bodily danger. And, they're fully within their rights to just shoot you down.
Of course, it's a national security thing as well. I mean, I think a lot of people probably wonder about national security. Of course, with the drone that was shot out over Israel, that exposed the idea that maybe their security is lax a little bit, and so they were able to apprehend the drone and bring it down, of course. But the truth is that somebody could get in there. They could really do some damage. They could even get a hold of secrets or ideas that they're not supposed to get a hold of. And those are the things I think we really need to pay attention to. And I think that's why I'm glad you had a pilot that was able to contact and talk with them, their talk. Otherwise, you may have not have been so lucky.